Welcome to the corner of Morris and Queen. My name is Chris Green, owner of Atlantic News. Welcome to the Atlantic News podcast. Want to welcome back Councillor Laura White. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's been a couple of weeks since we've spoken. There have been a couple of meetings, a lot going on. You're a new councillor, and the whole point of this is that it's useful for you. We've gotten good feedback that people like to hear what's going on. So, welcome. And how's it going?
It's going well.
Yeah.
I use the word drowning a lot, but doing all right.
Yeah. Well, you're smiling. That's good.
Yeah.
So, you are on the environmental committee. Is that right? Why don't we start with just to review with your constituents? What are the committees you sit on, and just what's going on, or whatever you want to share?
Sure.
Is that a good place to start?
Yep, sure. So that one you mentioned is the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee. So there's 4 or 5 standing committees that are kind of the top level committees.
Transportation, police, right?
I don't.
Maybe not
police,
police,
but
transport.
audit.
Yes.
Community planning and economic development, appeals.
Okay.
So that one. Also on the library board, we had our first meeting last night, which was great. Just to.
And what's going on there? They've settled the labor issue, so now it's onwards and upwards with the library.
Yep. Back to work a couple months.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that was the light agenda, and just get to know everyone. First one there. What else? I'm on the Port Community Liaison Committee, which I have not. There has been a meeting, but I wasn't able to attend the first one.
And that makes sense. You're part of that since it's contiguous. It's so much part of your district.
Right on.
Yeah.
And Sam Austin is on it as well.
Okay. So we'll hear more about
council.
that as stuff goes forward. That's an important economic one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Point Pleasant Park, the committee for that. That's the one that you're automatically on because of the district. So had one meeting there. The newest one I guess I'm on is the executive. Is it? I can't. It's ESC. I can't remember if it's standing committee maybe. Executive standing committee. Yeah. So it's like it's taking one from each of those 5 standing committees plus the mayor, deputy mayor. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's got quite a variety of things that come to it. It looked interesting to me. So those are all the committees for now. There's a few coming up we have to make decisions about on Monday, so there could be more. And then I'm also on 2 community councils. So that's the Regional Centre and the Halifax and West.
So the community councils, are these the councils where you get feedback and then you take this feedback to push forward any initiatives? Is that the focus?
Yeah, so far it's a lot of development agreements. I don't know what else comes there, but a lot of it has been, and heritage decisions as well, because what we're going to talk about later, that came to committee first. Yeah.
So your days are filled with different meetings and different people wanting to either meet with you or get a point across, I imagine.
Yeah, so meetings, and for instance, this morning actually I had a fun morning. I got out to the graduation ceremony for firefighters.
Oh,
so that was
nice.
Really nice.
Where was that?
That was in Dartmouth.
Oh, fantastic.
Tony Mancini let me in.
Okay. So we have a new batch of firefighters.
Yeah, and CAO Kathy O'Toole let us know that with this graduating class, we're able to open another fire station. I can't recall where it is.
Oh, nice.
But it's been a long time since we've opened a station.
And CAO, that's
Kathy. Sorry.
She's the deputy
administrative officer. So there's only 2 employees of council. It's her and the auditor general.
All right. So she represents staff.
Correct.
Okay.
She's the top of the staff. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so thanks for the update on all the committees you sit on. Since we've spoken, there have been a couple of meetings, a couple of big issues. The one big one that stands out, you wrote about it on your blog. This was the Mayor Fillmore's initiative to. It had to do with housing. Why don't you explain briefly what his initiative what it was, how you voted, and kind of the details of that? Because I know it was contentious.
Yes, for sure. Everything around homelessness is tough. So Mayor Fillmore's motion was about, so previously in July, the previous council agreed upon a list of 9 potential parks that could become designated encampments if needed. And the point of doing that was to put the decision making in the CAO's hands, so it wouldn't be a political fight each time we need to designate, with the knowledge that we probably will need to designate if there's nowhere for places for people to go. So that's a good thing, and it ended up standing, so that's fine.
So that's what you all inherited.
Yes, we
as a
inherited
council.
that. And then so Mayor Fillmore wanted to get rid of the list, and well, he would like to end encampments, which I think we all would. Encampments are good for no one.
Right.
But I think there's just various feelings about how long we're going to need encampments for, if we're going to need them, if they're the right decision.
Right.
Yeah.
So his initiative, the mayor's initiative, was to end the encampment. So
well, no, it was just about this list.
Oh, the list. Okay.
To get rid of the list and have the CAO stop designating from the list.
Right.
So to me, that's why I kind of felt like the third point I said in my blog post there was that it doesn't super matter what we decide, because if we need encampments, we're going to have to open one. It's just, is it going to come from the list, or is it something that we're going to discuss at council? And one thing the CAO had said is that she was getting the feeling that the council didn't want her to go ahead and designate without at least a conversation. So it felt like she was going to come to us anyways, and my impression was that it wouldn't add significantly to the timing to have a discussion about it. But I definitely recognize that making it political, like I don't want it in my district, I don't want it in my district,
Right.
is not a good thing.
Quite a political issue. So the mayor's initiative got quite a bit of criticism in the press. You voted for it.
Yep.
There was real strong opposition from a couple of the Cleary and Austin, a couple of veteran council people. Help us out here. Why did you explain it? What were the arguments against it? And how did you come to your decision?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember my second point.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's been a long day.
My first point was definitely that I do have a lot of faith in our CAO, or trust in her, I guess, and she was okay with this motion. So I thought, well, let's, there are things happening with the province that are now back in July. I can't remember what was back in July, but the province is coming online with some pallet shelters and tiny homes and things that we didn't have before. So that was my thought, is that let's hope that those come online and go ahead with the CAOs being okay with getting rid of the list and just talking about it one by one.
What was the argument against this?
The argument,
and I know I'm asking you 2-3 weeks ago, and pardon me, I'm not asking for details. Just in terms of the, so you voted for this because it was a good faith argument from the mayor. The mayor was elected on this issue, and
oh, that's sorry. Now I remember my second item.
Yeah.
But so the arguments against it is that they've already, especially current councillors that have been doing this for years, and this is the toughest issue they've ever faced. They've already had so many conversations, and they were able to agree on this list. And the downside of getting rid of the list is that every time we need an encampment, that it's another political debate. So I think that's the thing. And the recognition that, we are not anywhere near out of this housing crisis, and they feel that it's we'll definitely need encampments. So here's the list that we all agreed to work for. Let's just keep it. And that's what happened, and that's fine.
And could that be the fact that the mayor said that we're something to the effect that we're out of this housing crisis? Didn't he say something like that?
Well, I mean, he's privy to more conversations than I am, right? He's the closest point to the province. So he feels from all his conversations with the province that we're closer to indoor options, and more indoor options are coming online. And I agree that being indoors with the right support is better than being outdoors. So if those are coming, I welcome them.
Right. Now, one of the pieces of opposition, from what I understand, help me sort this out, is that, well, if you shut down these encampments and in effect force homeless people to go to the government indoor spots, these government indoor spots do not allow people with addictions, and so if somebody's addicted, they can't go there and then they're really in trouble because there's not an encampment.
That's correct. Yeah, we do not have a true housing first policy. We aspire to it. I would say we being. I think when there's a framework written on how the city's going to deal with homelessness, and that's
Right.
in there. But a
Right.
true housing first policy is where you have a facility that you can accept people with any sort of issue or addiction, mental health. And we don't have that right now. Like every indoor option has some sort of limit on.
Right. And this is such a complicated issue, and it's easy to paint good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
But you could, I can without really, I'm not an expert in this issue, but you could see the argument that, wow, you don't want these homeless sites, these indoor sites. You don't want to welcome in people with addiction because you have families in there, and then they're going to bring in drug issues, and that's going to cause a problem. I guess, would that be an argument for why you don't let somebody addicted into a homeless shelter?
I don't think I can comment on those
Right.
social. I don't know. I'm an
Well, but-
engineer.
Right, but there
But
are
like we need places for people. Right now there's no shelters for families. We have women and children shelters, but we don't have for families. So if a whole family they have to be split up, which is horrible.
But I guess my question before was what I'm using. Right now we have indoor shelters, but if you are on a substance or addicted, you can't stay there.
Correct.
And why is that rule in place? Why not let people?
Well,
And maybe you don't know. I know you didn't
okay,
make these
so
rules.
both healthcare and housing remain provincial jurisdictions, right? So the province provides mental health care, physical health care, and housing. That's supposed to be how it is, right? We don't have in the city. We don't have staff of
This isn't your role.
mental
Yeah.
health professionals, and we don't have budget to hire them either. You know, that's a conversation if we want to switch who's in charge and
Right.
who has the budget.
Right. Okay.
But right now, that's not the reality. So we can't, as a city, staff a place like that. I know that the province has some facilities that have. I don't know all the supports they have, but they have social the bridge and the Overlook. Is it Overlook? There's two facilities that are the closest we have to a housing first model, but I don't think they're all the way there with every kind
Okay.
of support you would need. Yeah. But to me, this decision was about, do we have a list or do we not have a list? It wasn't about will we or will we not ever have an encampment again.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So this initiative did not pass.
That's right. So we
Right.
still have our list.
So then what, do you have a sense, what's the next step? Is the mayor going to come back with something? Is the council going to, what's the next step in this story in terms of the council and passing? And maybe you don't know the answer to that.
I don't
know.
really know the answer. I'll just chime in with my second of three reasons because I remembered it. Is that the whole list is all parks, and I would really like us, if we can, be a little more creative and keep asking for help from other levels of government to find spaces that are not parks, because especially in this district, many people live in buildings. They don't have a backyard. Parks are so vital to all of us, whether you have a yard or not. But
Right.
there are many people in this district that live in a basement apartment or live in a tower. Like, we need parks. It's so important for all of us.
Right.
So I'd really like to find some solutions that are not taking.
Yeah, and you
taking
mentioned
parks.
parking lots,
Yeah.
but then you also said doing it in a way that
I
is
mean,
respectful.
obviously, I don't
and-
want human beings living in a parking lot.
Exactly, but if that's a
Yeah.
spot,
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah.
ideas on how to do
Yeah.
this. Right,
Mhm.
right. Yeah. So that was the big
But
house.
sorry, you're asking what was next, and I mean, I don't know. I just want to look at what are the things that are within the city's control of what we can do to get more housing. You know, we're not going to take over healthcare, but you know, what can we do to get more affordable units? We still need more market. We need every type of housing. So what are those things that we can do? So keep having those conversations and finding out what we
Great.
can do. And I don't know, like, are there things we can do when we do have, you know, like we have the forum right now? Is there things we can do to make that more inviting for people to welcome them inside instead of outside?
Right.
Right? Like, because there are, like, every person's needs and comforts are different, and it's hard to match with everybody.
Great. Well, thank you. And I know that there's not an easy button for this issue.
Yeah.
And Laura, like all the counselors do, but I checked it out earlier today. Laura has a you call it your blog.
Yeah, it's the website I had set up for the
Yeah.
campaign,
And
I
you say
still
it's a work
do-
in progress, but
Yeah.
it's very helpful. So those
I'm
of you
trying
that
to do news there.
those of you that are interested, check that out. because there's a lot of good information on there. What's another big one in the last 2 weeks? The tender process, basically the pre-season of the budget season, the beginning of this upcoming budget season. Is that accurate?
Yep. So 2 things came to us in one motion. The request was pre-approval to go out to tender on projects. So not necessarily saying for sure you can have this money for these projects, but yes, you can go out and get quotes back, because if we don't start this process now, you lose at least the spring construction season. I don't know how far that would spill over, but that's the idea, is to get started on it.
Get quotes on building roads, building bike lanes, whatever you spend the money on.
So that was an easy decision, because it's not a final approval.
And it's not binding, as we were talking before.
No, it's not binding.
You approve a big millions of dollars, and that's later on you could go and pick out and vote yes or no on the particular projects. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll see. I haven't done it before, but yes, there's more of a debate on it.
Right.
On projects. Yeah.
So as that moves along in the springtime is when the council will start making decisions on where to spend the money.
No,
that
it'll
how
be
it
all
works?
done by spring.
Oh, it'll be done by spring.
So this is, like you were saying, the preseason, and then it's going over the next 4 months, and the budget gets completely finished.
So now it
by
comes.
April. Yeah, here we go.
Right away. Okay.
But the second part of that motion was trickier, because it was about a project that's been in the works and planned and budgeted for years, but it's come back that, surprise, the price has gone up.
And what was that project briefly?
So that's for a turf field at Lockview High School in Fall River.
Okay.
So all 3 levels of government, like community, did a ton of work in fundraising, and they got funds from the federal and provincial governments and municipal. But with the increased costs that they're seeing now, it kind of had come back to us. So we won't be able to get, I seriously doubt we'd get any more money from other levels of government at this point. So we're kind of left holding the bag. And it's like, do you cancel a project that's almost there?
Wow. So the former council voted for this to go forward, but now this came to the new council because we need more money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're basically, voting to kibosh something that's really close to the end.
So was this a yes or no vote? This will either go on or die?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's tricky, And
so
you can amend motions. Like we
Right.
could have amended it to say, okay, no, you don't. I think there was like a walking trail and a changing room, like a washroom.
Well,
You could just say like, nope, sorry, all you get is a turf, no washroom. But then it's like halfway, and it's not.
Right.
It's not the facility that was envisioned and that will be used for years and years.
So what came of that vote? Did that
so
pass?
it passed.
It passed.
I can't remember the split on it,
But it
but it
passed.
healthily passed
And
because
From what I understand, and there's been some mention of this in the press, that a criticism of this was the nature of the turf field. And I have to admit, I've grown up, I'm in my 50s, I've played on fields my whole life, and I never really liked turf as a kid, but as you get older, the turf, especially in this area, it's great for poor weather. So I hadn't quite heard the concern that playing on turf is going to cause cancer, or I don't know if that was it. But
and I don't know the details. I think
But that was
that was
a criticism.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a criticism. As with anything in life, there's different risks. I don't know the specifics on that, and a resident wrote me about it, so I forwarded on to staff to see if they thought about it or had done the. And I actually myself, at the first school my eldest went to in Toronto, we had this discussion because it was a very small backyard, and it was just constantly a mud pit. It was never usable. It was always, and so
this is a
that
solution.
conversation came up, and at the time I was not loving it because it is fake. It's not plants.
And there's off-gassing. You could smell it.
And Toronto gets very hot.
Yeah.
So
especially in the heat.
And we're getting hotter here too. So having like a tight urban area with the turf field was not something I wanted. And it was actually interesting because I looked back and looked, and they have it. It's there now.
Now they have it.
So they went ahead with it.
So this passed. So this field, we'll be able to go and see this field sometime soon. It'll be.
I don't know the timing on it, but
it's finished.
It's been funded.
So the budget, you have to come up with a new budget, and you have to deal with things that pop up from the past budget. That's interesting. Very complicated. There were, was it part of the tender? How did this issue come up with okaying a decision about historical property? And that was in our district here.
Yeah, so that's a very rare thing. So we approved that a heritage a building in a heritage district could be torn down.
Yeah. And that raises hackles. I mean, I like history. When I hear, wait a minute, a historical building is being torn down? This is terrible. But I think I know the building. It's that white building around the corner from here on the cemetery. It's boarded up. I have to admit, it doesn't look like a beautiful old piece of architecture. But is this the building we're talking about?
That's the one, yeah. So I first heard about it, I don't know, at least a month ago. I got a heads up from Councillor Cleary. Like, they're pros, and they look ahead. And so I went and took a look, and I reached out to Councillor Mason to hear the history on it. And it had, before it came to full council, it came to one of the, must have been the regional center council. Anyhow, so there's a process to all this. It's not like it comes to us in the beginning.
Does it just pop up?
It's gone through. So there's a Heritage Advisory Committee, and they've been involved all along. And it also went to them twice. So it was voted against in the first place, but then there was more discussion about how can we preserve some heritage here, and it was turned into, okay, so we're going to daylight the foundation.
Right.
Because what did we learn through the process is that the original building is no longer there. All that's left of the original one is this foundation, and then about 100 years ago, what we see now was built, and it was built for a caretaker to live in the cemetery. So that my understanding is that it was never built a heritage home that you're envisioning, right? It wasn't the greatest quality and whatnot.
So the people that own the cemetery want to tear that down. Is that what started with this?
And they'd like to use it for columbariums. So because the cemetery is full, they can continue serving the public by.
And so the historical, the interest of the historical society came and spoke and said this should not be torn down. I think one of the speakers was a candidate for the District 7.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was. Like I say, I'd already done all the reading on it, been through at a community council, and then to hear all these opinions and thoughts, I was like, oh goodness, did I miss something? Like, because these are concerns that people are raising. The two that stood out to me in particular were they were saying that we would be violating the Nova Scotia Act, and I thought, that can't be right. How would it get through all these levels of committees and staff? And so that was a concern. And then there was also talking about an engineering report that was anonymous, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound right either. So I asked some questions about that, and I was comfortable with the responses, and so I was okay.
So the decision there was to go ahead, and that can be torn down, and the owners of the cemetery can go forward with their plans.
That's right. So later we will see, they had some concept drawings of what they want to do there, and all through this process I've been very clear with them, like, I'm okay with this because I see this as a new public space. Like, it's open, it's not going to be closed off. I'd like to see benches, trees, grass.
Okay, so this will continue.
Yeah, and I really like, sort of near the end of our discussion, Councillor Cuddle was talking about over the foundation, could we have like a pergola? And I thought that was a great idea to kind of show the shape of the original cottage that was there and provide some more shade. So there'll be more discussion, I guess, as that comes to what they're actually going to do with it. But the approval was to be able to demolish.
Nice. I so appreciate, I've only lived here a year, but I so appreciate living in a community where there's this, it's a dynamic city that's growing, and there's building, but then there's a sense of people have been living here for hundreds of years, and how do we protect it? Because that's it's unique, and it's a gift to be able to live in a place like that, really.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah. And tough decisions, but it's really,
I really like, I've seen at these community councils, we get a lot of heritage development agreements. So it's, if you have a heritage property and you protect it and preserve it, you can kind of be upzoned and have more units behind it. So a lot of them look really cool to me, like beautiful, preserving these beautiful buildings and adding a lot of density.
I have to say that there's a lot of criticism about, Halifax is growing and it's not what it used to be, and there are housing issues and there's traffic issues, but it's such a dynamic city, and I feel like we're lucky to be here at this time because the things are happening.
Yeah, and I think we have a chance to get it right or wrong here. Like,
right. Yeah.
like we need to go big on transit. And
right.
Get it right.
Yeah. Stay tuned. But we'll be talking about that as things go forward, won't we? Yes. Yes.
Yep.
So in this brief amount of time, what else is it worth mentioning at all? The discussion about the footpath and the right of way over on the west, on arm. From what I understand, there's a public right-of-way that so people can get to the coast. Where here in your district over here, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's to get down to it. It's that they call it a tow path, and I think that has something to do with boats
Okay,
back
yeah.
in the day. But it's basically a
It's
walking
public
path,
access.
public access along a walking path along the arm on the west side there. So yeah, you're right. On our south end here, we don't have public access. It's all privately owned, as far as I know. I've seen a few little places you can
Right.
jet down to
Right.
the water, but there's nowhere you can walk along.
And so this issue, there's a question about development, and some homes are going to be built, and the question is the city wants the path to be a certain width, and the developer is worried about that width, and this was the discussion-ish?
Yes, well, it's interesting how the process goes. I wouldn't have been. It wasn't something that in my pre-reading rang any alarm bells for me at all. But the public gallery was completely full when this came to the community council.
These are residents that
Because
live
residents that live there, and they know.
And what
they know
did
the history.
and what did they want?
What they were uncomfortable with in the current version of the development agreement, it says that the property owner will maintain the towpath, but that's all it says. And I think there's some discomfort with that. Like, well, what does that mean? How forever? What width? What access? So, and I think, I don't know how this will all play, because as Councillor Cleary pointed out, this is just 50 meters of a 1.5 meter trail. So
There could
you
be a
know,
debate
if we sort
upon
this out, what does that mean
the
for
next 50.
door, right? But it's also a crucial point that the residents feel in that we don't want to let this be ambiguous forever. If this is an important, it is public access to the water is pretty important.
Yeah.
So at that,
What was the result?
there was.
Or was there a result?
I think it remains to be delayed for a staff report. We want a staff report to come back and see. And when I voted on the first time, there was discussion that it was kind of a 2 to 4 month decision. I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. I really did not want to delay housing development for years at all. So
Because
2 to 4 months, I was like, okay, I can do
Because in this development, there's going to be new housing.
Well, it's new housing. It's
Yeah.
15 new homes.
Yeah,
And
not low-income housing by any means,
no,
but housing.
it's not. But it's housing.
Right,
It's part of the
right.
part of the puzzle.
Okay.
Yep. So staff will, yes. So the my understanding is the way it went is the developer offered 1 meter to the city, and the city said, no, we want 3, and then they just stopped talking. So we'd
Okay.
like a little more clarity on what can be done there.
So this balance between industry and development and the
Mhm.
people that live there and access, nice.
Yeah.
Anything else that happened you want to share, or anything that any other matters you want to share before we go?
Yep. I just wanted to mention the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center is one step closer to reality. We had the public hearing. We had first reading 2 meetings
So
ago.
wait, first, for those that have never heard of it, what is it and where's it going to be?
So it's a new center for people who are Indigenous living in the city.
Community center.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So it was, as long as I've known it was on Godigan, and
Okay.
then now it's on Brunswick in a temporary location.
So this has existed in the
This
past.
has existed for a while, and this is a new home, like basically free land to develop.
And where will that be?
We know whose land it was originally.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll be in the gateway lands, they call it, right by Centennial Pool.
Oh,
That's what it's
fantastic. Well, that's exciting.
Mhm.
So this is good news.
It's excellent news.
Fantastic.
And I really liked how the veteran counselors talked about it, and we learned in the process that we kind of massaged our zoning to allow this beautiful building rather than forcing them to
shoehorn in.
shoehorn in.
Nice.
So it's going to be really, really nice. There was
Oh.
a couple issues. It's going to have some beautiful public open grass space in the back, and in the downtown area. Normally you're
Okay.
not allowed park. You got to build building.
Oh,
So that was kind of interesting. And then there's an issue with vertical versus horizontal.
Yeah.
Horizontal articulation.
Nice. Well, well done, Council.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Is any other pieces, or is that good for now? I know you're
one little thing. I don't have much information to share, but I did see it was in All Nova Scotia a couple months ago. So I did have a meeting with person from Campus Developments. It's a company. They do student housing, but it's like private. It's not University. Anyhow, they have land on Coburg near, like on Walnut, Chestnut, Coburg.
Okay.
That they want to develop, or they as of right development for
So
they want to do student housing, but it's
Okay.
like private student housing.
Okay.
So I just wanted to mention that's coming, and I'll be sharing as much information as I get it. But that's as of right development. It can be up to 9 stories. It's going to be a big change for the neighborhood because it's been single family. But
I
yeah.
see.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's it.
well, Laura White, again, thank you for taking the time to stop by, and good luck with the rest of the meetings. How does the holiday schedule work? Will you have meetings next week and the week after before Christmas, or what does the holiday schedule look like?
Trying to fade away next week. Yeah.
Okay.
So right, we're the 13th now. Yeah.
Mhm.
So next week is fairly full, and
then after
and then
that,
hopefully
you'll
a
have
week off. Yeah.
a week off, and then
Yeah.
you'll start up
Yeah.
in between Christmas and New Year's. Do you have
I
stuff?
don't know when
or
the
do you-
meetings start. I haven't looked. I'm minute by minute here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much, and have a nice weekend.
You as well. Thank you.